Amateur Traveler is in its 20th year now, but can you imagine if I had people on the show who had never been to the destination but had just read about it or seen a movie about it? That wouldn't make any sense at all, and you wouldn't listen. We all know how important it is to receive advice from people who know a destination to get the most authentic local experience. And a great option for experiencing this is Explore Worldwide and their authentic small group adventures, led by local tour leaders, perfect for solo travelers who want to meet like minded people with a desire for adventure. I'm often an independent traveler, but two of my last three trips were with small group tours because they organize everything and it's a lot easier. If you want to recreate the tour I did to Malta, they have a Malta and Gozo Discovery Tour. I'm intrigued by one of their tours called A Taste of Sicily. The company again is Explore Worldwide, and visit exploreworldwide.com to learn more. And thanks to Explore Worldwide for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler. The nights are long, the days are short, and the weather is chilly to downright cold, depending on where you are. It's a good time to slip into a Quince iconic Mongolian cashmere sweaters, which start at only $50. You can treat yourself to everyday luxury at an affordable price with Quince. If you really want to dive into luxury, you can check out their leather handbags, washable silk shirts, and European linen sheet sets. Whatever you're looking for at Quince, all the prices are 50 to 80% less than similar brands, and they do that by partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the middleman. They only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing processes. And of course, they use premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel in every piece. But you've already heard me rave about my Quince travel pants. Treat yourself this winter without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/traveler for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/traveler to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/traveler. And thanks to Quince for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler.
Got my bags packed, I'm on a roll. I'm heading out there and I'm ready to go. I'm looking real good in my passport photo. Oh, no.
Amateur Traveler, episode 269. Today, the Amateur Traveler goes to a location made famous by Ernest Hemingway as we go to Pamplona, Spain.
Got to sit in one more cafe. I know that I should be heading home, but maybe not today.
Welcome to the Amateur Traveler. I'm your host, Chris Christensen. Before we get into this week's interview, I do have two news stories for you. The first one, if you're on a flight, sometimes a good ham sandwich seems like it would be a good idea, but probably not, as EasyJet learned, if the flight is from Tel Aviv. They did apologize to their kosher customers. And speaking of an apology being needed, a Mumbai-bound flight was delayed for nearly 2 hours, 40 minutes of which was caused by a passenger who made a ruckus over the fact that the pilot was a woman. The man reportedly became jittery after the pilot came on the intercom to deliver a regular flight announcement and was female. The man started grumbling, saying, "I don't want to die. She can't take care of the house. How will she take care of a plane?" For links to both of those stories, check out the show notes at amateurtraveler.com. I'd like to welcome to the show Vicente Perez, who is coming to us currently from Los Angeles, but originally from Spain. Vicente, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Nice being here.
And I believe you know somebody who's been on the program recently.
Yes, my wife, Brooke, was actually talking about our trip to Xi'an.
And while we were talking about Xi'an, it came up that Vicente had gone to college in the city of Pamplona in the region of Navarre in Spain, and that is certainly something that a lot of tourists go to. Now, we all know that the only reason to go to Pamplona is for the running the bulls, right?
That may not be the case, actually. Actually, I would recommend, if you can go to visit Pamplona any other time of the year, it may even be better.
Okay.
No, the thing is, it's Pamplona, becomes a totally different city during the San Fermines. So you get a totally different experience. So you can actually go there twice and have the feel that you have been to two totally different towns.
So let's talk about that typical tourist experience, and then I want to spend most of the time talking about the non-typical experience. But if I did go for the running of the bulls, if I did go for, and the Spanish name for that is?
The San Fermines.
The San Fermines.
Yeah, it's because of the name of the saint. Basically, this festival celebrates the life of one of the patrons of the region of Navarre.
Okay.
His name is San Fermin, so the name of the festival is the San Fermines.
Okay. And best known for, obviously, the running of the bulls with the hopefully faster moving running of the tourists and Spaniards in front of the bulls. Although my understanding is you can't actually run the whole way in front of the bulls. You spend just a few terrifying seconds right in front of them and then dart out of the way, hopefully.
Well, that's the thing, is the whole run is really quick. It's about 3 minutes, and it's so packed. Usually you have around 2,000 people running.
Oh, my.
And that's the thing, you can do the running of the bulls without seeing a bull. Because
Oh, okay. I think I would like it better that way, actually.
yes, exactly. That may be the safest way. But you can actually be one of the first ones who starts running and get to the bull ring, which is the destination where
Right.
we're running, and get there without seeing a bull. People are going to boo you because that's not what you are supposed to do. But that's totally possible.
And then ends in the bull ring. It ends in the traditional bullfight. Anything else that we should know about that time of year? Very crowded, obviously.
Yeah, well, the thing is, actually, the bullfight is later in the day. The reason why they do that is because back in the day, they had to move the bulls from the corrals where they were staying to the bull ring.
Uh-huh.
So they will do it early in the morning so they would not disturb the people during the day in the city. And then everybody started joining and just running with the bulls. And now it has become the staple of this festival. But yeah, it's crowded. It's really crowded. You have around 2,000 people during the weekdays. It can be up to 3,500 people on weekends. So it's really difficult to even get there. You have to be there really early in order to make it into the area where you're going to start running, because half an hour before you start running, they actually close the path. They have these barriers.
Right.
So of course the bulls cannot go out. But people cannot get in afterwards, and they actually screen, and the police walks around just to make sure that everybody is somewhat sober.
Oh, that would be a good idea, yeah.
Exactly, because this thing is dangerous.
Right.
It's really dangerous. It is my understanding that 16 people have died since this tradition started. And actually, I think in the late 90s, an American died. Some person from Chicago died. So it's actually dangerous. And every year you have at least 300 people who get injured. Usually it's just because people trip or get pushed, and more than anything is contusions and that sort of a thing.
Well, and I've seen a lot of videos of bulls running over people, so that didn't look very pleasant.
Well, that's the thing, is it's very slippery. You have to make sure that you are wearing the right kind of shoes. You definitely don't want to run with your flip-flops. And it gets really slippery. It's actually kind of funny because they repaved those streets about 10 years ago. And those are regular streets, like it's the center of the city, and during
Right.
the year you have stores and you can actually walk around those streets. And they repaved them, and there was this huge uproar because they use a kind of stone that gets even more slippery.
Oh, geez.
So yeah, they had to repave them again and choose a more efficient kind of stone that at least didn't injure so many people every time.
So, if we're not going to go there during this time, when would you recommend that we go to really see Pamplona and Navarre in more the way they really are?
I will definitely recommend you go there. Well, there is this thing. The best thing about Navarre is the food. That I'm going to tell you right now, because it's the region itself is right on the border between Spain and France. So you get the best of the Spanish cuisine, the best of the French cuisine, And in November, you have this thing called the Pincho Festival.
Okay.
And the pincho is basically a kind of tapa. I'm sure you are familiar with tapas, with the Spanish. Tapa is like a small portion of
Right.
any kind of food.
Well, and it started, as I understand the tradition, with the bartenders would give you a little something on a little plate on top of your drink, olives or some nuts or something like that, and it's gotten a little more fancy in recent years, but...
Exactly. They will put it on top because back in the day, we're talking like 17th, 18th century, the environment was so dirty with like dust and whatnot that they would put something on top of it so the dirt would not get in your drink. So that was the reason. So this is a kind of tapa. Basically, it's usually made with bread. So it's bread with things on top. And in order to hold everything together, they use a toothpick. So that's why it's called pincho, because pincho literally means pick, from toothpick.
Okay.
So what you do is you go to a bar and they will have all these little platters with different kinds of pinchos, and you are going to eat as much as you want. You keep your toothpicks, and at the end you just show them.
Okay.
And they know exactly how much.
And they charge you by the toothpicks.
Exactly, by the toothpicks. So that's the tradition, and in many places they still do that. And during this festival in November, each little bar and restaurant tries to come up with their best new recipe, and all of them compete. So you can actually walk around and sample the new recipes and the new pinchos they have. It's a great, great experience. If you like food, you definitely want to try that.
And what is your favorite pincho tapas?
It's really difficult to say because they get really sophisticated. You can actually go online. They have a website for this festival, and you can see like different recipes. I tried one last time I was there. I tried one that was a mousse of meat with cheese. It's really, really delicious. But the other thing is like each bar has the staple pincho. So if you want to get one kind of pincho, you know that you have to go to this one bar because that's where they make the best one. And if you want to get a fish one, for instance, you have to go to this other one.
And do you have a favorite bar or two that you really like the tapas or the pinchos?
Well, there is this street, it's called Estafeta, which is actually the main street where the bulls run during the running of the bulls. And in that street, you have lots of different bars, and that's where I usually go. It can get a little bit touristy, especially during the San Fermines, during the festival, but you know that you are getting good stuff. So it's not just touristy and they are giving you paella, which, by the way, I will not recommend eating in Pamplona because that's not their main dish. If you go to Pamplona and eat paella, you are definitely not eating the best.
Okay.
Actually, I will stay away. If you go to a bar and they have paella, you know that that's a full-on touristy bar, so I will try to stay away from that.
Okay.
But you definitely have to walk this street and try all the pinchos in the different places. And you can also drink, because that's the thing, the cuisine here is really, really diverse. So the wine, for instance, is really famous in this region. The wine from Navarre, I would say after Rioja, is probably the best wine that you can find in Spain. And you also have great cheeses. You also have great vegetables. They have this thing called chuletón, which is basically steak. But they cook it really, really rare. So they say that if the steak is not bleeding when they serve it, it's overdone.
Okay.
So it's really, they keep it on the stove for like 3 seconds, and that's it. And it's really, really good. You can go to these places called asadores, where they specialize on making this kind of dish. Another very typical thing is called the pimiento del piquillo. Pimiento del piquillo is a kind of small bell pepper, red bell pepper. It's not spicy like Mexican peppers.
Right.
And it's stuffed with cod and mousse. So it's really, really filling, but it's really, really small. And also...
Sorry, I think we lost something in translation. It's stuffed with cod?
Yes,
the fish. Okay.
With cod, yeah, with
and then
cod.
I heard moose.
Sorry, no, and a cream.
And a cream. Okay, a moose
Yeah,
as in the French moose rather than the large
yeah,
animal with
not the
antlers. Yeah,
animal.
I figured that was not what we were talking about. Okay.
Exactly, it's a cream, so it's really, really filling and it's really, really tasty. And you can also try the white asparagus, for instance, there in Navarre are very famous. The ajuarriero is a dish made with cod too. That's very, very, very famous too. And there is also this very typical drink called calimocho, which is the official drink of the San Fermines, I would say. If you go during the San Fermines, you will see everybody drinking this drink. It's essentially Coke with wine.
That doesn't sound really good at all.
But that's the thing, is like it's interesting that nobody else came up with that idea. But it is actually very yummy.
Okay.
And during the San Fermines, I'm telling you, you would see everybody walking around with their glasses filled with calimocho all the way to the top.
And it's served cold or?
It's served cold
Okay.
with ice, and that's what people used to get drunk.
Interesting. And while we're there, what else should we see?
Well, if you go to Pamplona, Pamplona is very close to the Pyrenees.
Right.
And geographically, it's between Spain and France, and very close to the Basque country. So the whole region itself is beautiful. It's nothing like anything that you expect from Spain. Because when you think of Spain, you think more like the south of Spain,
Right.
like the dry
Drier,
climate.
warmer. Right.
Exactly. No, this is totally like, I will compare it to Switzerland. It's these beautiful mountains surrounding the region. It tends to be chilly, very, very green, all these forests. It tends to snow a lot in the winter. So you can go to Pamplona and actually visit the whole region. You can go to the north, for instance. You have these very beautiful mountains where you can actually go skiing. You can go to the south. You have these small towns that are still medieval towns. Actually, you can stay. There is this thing called paradores. I don't know if you're
Sure.
familiar with.
Yeah. No, I've stayed in 2 paradors.
Oh, okay, then you know all about them. Paradores
Well, but
are
not all of our listeners may.
probably, yes, they are all castles and monasteries that now are owned by the country of Spain, and they have been redone, and now they are hotels, and they are really amazing because they really take care of the buildings, and in addition to that, they have great restaurants, and they are all over Spain. And each one tries to feature the highlights of the regional cuisine. So if you go to Navarra, you can go to the Parador in Olite, the town of Olite, and it's this amazing castle where the kings of Navarra used to live back in the day. And you can actually try the food there, the restaurant that they have there, and it's really, really, really nice.
You were mentioning the Kings of Navarre. Before we go too far away from that, we were talking before we started recording, and you were saying that of Navarre, of course, used to be an independent kingdom.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Navarra used to be an independent kingdom starting in the 10th century. The city of Pamplona was originally founded by the Romans, and for many, many years there were all these wars between the French, the Spanish, the Moors, who made it all the way up there to keep control of that region. But finally, in the 10th century, Navarra became its own kingdom, and it was an independent kingdom until the 16th century, when Spain took over most of it. And the north of it actually stayed independent until much later, until the 17th century. And actually, the kings of Navarra became the kings of France. The last king of Navarra took the throne of France, Henry the Fourth, and they started the Bourbon dynasty, who ruled France until the French Revolution and who still runs Spain. The current king of Spain is a Bourbon.
Interesting. Huh.
A very interesting fact is that even though Spain took over Navarra, Navarra managed to keep somewhat of an independent administration for a long, long time. It was kind of like autonomous for many, many years. And in that respect, it's more like, I would say, Scotland or Wales. And
Okay.
up until today, you can still see that they are very proud of this independence that they have kept for many, many years. They had their own parliament and everything. Even through Franco, they were the only region that had somewhat of an independent parliament.
Interesting. So you were talking about the Paradors, and yes, I've stayed in the Paradors in both Ronda down in Andalusia as well as up in Segovia.
Yes, those are amazing. I would say the Parador in Olite is top notch, is one of the best ones. The thing with the Paradors is they are hit or miss. Some of them are really new buildings, so they don't have the charm of the old ones. But if you are traveling around Spain, I will definitely try to find a Parador and stay there, because it's an experience that is really difficult to match.
Okay. If we go to Navarre, if we go to Pamplona, we can't really say we've seen it until we've seen what or till we've done what.
Well, if you go to Pamplona during the San Fermines, it's the San Fermines are a full-on festival. So people know the San Fermines because of the running of the bulls and Hemingway being there,
Right,
and,
sure.
and the sun also rises. But there are many, many other things that you can do during the San Fermines. So I would definitely say that if you go and visit Pamplona during the San Fermines, you definitely want to go on July the 6th, because that's the first day of the festival. And at 12 p.m., you want to go to the city hall. In front of the city hall, there is this plaza, and from there, you can see the Txupinazo. The Txupinazo is this rocket that they launch from one of the balconies of the city hall, and that's the beginning of the festival.
Okay.
So let me explain what happens, because you cannot just wander around and expect to be the only one there. It gets packed. And when I say packed, I mean during the San Fermines, the population of the city multiplies by 4. And you have to take into account that half of the people who regularly live in the city actually leave the city. Because if you have been there once and you live in the city, you are enough. You are like, okay. So it gets crazy. It gets so packed that they actually set up all the parks with porta potties so people can sleep there in the parks, because there are not enough hotels and rooms to just have all the people who are coming. So when you go to see the Txupinazo, you have to be there early, I would say at least 1 hour before. And if you are claustrophobic or you have small kids with you or elderly people, you want to avoid going there. But if you have the energy to do it, I will definitely recommend going there, because that's where you're going to find all the people being at their prime, celebrating. And let me start by saying you are going to get dirty. Because what happens? The attire that you have to wear during the festival is very unique. You have to dress completely with white clothes. You have to wear this red bandana around your neck. And you are not supposed to put that bandana on until the Txupinazo, until they actually launch this rocket.
Okay.
So everybody goes to this plaza, and when they launch the rocket, then they put their bandanas on. What happens? You are white, and that's very easy to stain. So as a way to say, okay, we're not going to get stained during the festivals, people just decide to get all their stains the very first hour. So you're going to be there, and everybody's going to start throwing eggs at you. They're going to start throwing champagne at you. They open all these bottles of champagne, and they start like throwing champagne at you. They start throwing flour, everything they can to make you dirty. Don't take it personal. It's part of the celebration.
Okay.
And that's the thing. And actually, you will get so dirty that after the Txupinazo, people walk out of this plaza, and you can walk through the narrow streets in downtown, in the old part of town, and people start asking for the people in the buildings to just throw water at them. So people will stop on their balcony and start singing water, water, water. And people will just come out with a bucket and just throw the bucket. So you can get somewhat clean and then go ahead and get dirty again. So this is just an example of the craziness of this festival. Just as a little example, you don't sleep at night.
Okay.
Like the regular schedule will be at 6:45 a.m. You have the municipal band walking around town, not waking up people, but just letting people know that, hey, it's a new day. So just be aware. After that, you have some food that I assume if you were waking up, you would call breakfast, but since you did not sleep at night, I don't know, you may call it second dinner, which usually is like soup, or you can also have churros, which is this very traditional Spanish food. It's very similar to the Mexican churro. I don't know if you are familiar with it.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's like the Mexican churro. It's fried dough, but it doesn't have sugar. It doesn't have cinnamon. And you eat it with chocolate. You either dip it in chocolate, or some of them are even stuffed with chocolate. They're really, really yummy. So this will be your breakfast. And at 7:30 a.m., you go to the area in the old part of town where the running of the bulls is going to happen. You either get ready to run with the bulls, which I don't recommend if you are not fully sober, or you find a good spot to see the running of the bulls. At 9 a.m., after the running of the bulls, you have this procession. It's called Giants and Big Heads.
Okay.
And it's literally these characters dancing around the old part of town with the municipal band. Some of them are giants, are these very, very tall characters. They are four couple of kings representing four different continents. So you have the Americas, Europe, Africa, and Asia. Behind them, you have the big heads, which are these characters that represent people from the city hall, but from the 18th century. So they are dressed in this very old-fashioned kind of attire. And with them, you have other characters. Also, they are called big heads, but they have smaller heads, and they will kick you. They chase you with rubber, kind of like a rubber. Huh?
Let me pause here for a second. So if I go to Pamplona during the festival,
Yes. You have to run among bulls, and then they're going to kick you.
I'm going to have people throw eggs at me and kick me and possibly have animals run over me. Okay. All right.
And I just got started. This is only 9 a.m. No, they have these kind of nunchucks. I don't know how to describe them better. They're kind of these nunchucks. They're made out of rubber or foam. They don't really hurt, and this is mostly for kids. So they chase you, and they hit you with these. And you have also these other characters that are literally horses, like fake horses made of cardboard, with the guy who supposedly is riding the horse also trying to chase you. So it's lots of fun, especially if you have kids. Now, after that, if you want to go to see the bullfight that night, you may want to go to the bull ring at this point and get the tickets, because since the 60s, I think it's since 1967 actually, there has not been a single day in which the tickets were not sold out. So if you want to see the bullfight that day, you may want to go this early and buy the tickets, and you may get lucky and get some. And now, after you bought your tickets, this is when you go to bed. Like, at 10 a.m., you go to bed, and then you can sleep until 4 p.m. or something like that. And then at 4 p.m., you want to wake up and go with the peñas. Let me pause here. The peñas are these organized groups of people who basically work all year round planning what they are going to do during this festival. And they have their own bars where they get together, and they have their own bands, and they have their own very unique costumes. And you have peñas depending on the neighborhood, depending on the region of Spain, depending on the country. There is even an American peña, believe it or not. So they get together in different places, and they go to the bullfight. So you want to follow them because they are lots of fun. As I say, they have music and they play all these instruments on their way to the bull ring. And then you can go and see the bullfight. What happens with the bullfight? You can choose two sides. You have the sun area of the bull ring, which is where you're going to sit and you're going to be on the sun all the time. Those are the cheapest seats. Or you can choose the shade side or the shaded side. Those are more expensive. Those are harder to come by because those are actually the ones that people who like bullfights buy. So if you sit there, you go there just to see people being seen and enjoying the bullfight. If you go to the sun area, you are not even going to look at the bullfight. You're just going to go there to eat. You are going to go there to sing songs. The peñas are playing their instruments all the time. It's all about the fun. It's more of a social event than anything. And after the bullfight, the peñas will leave and they will walk around town again. And this is lots of fun because they will have all these banners with jokes regarding things that happen, poking fun at things that happen during the year or at certain people in the city hall and the city council. So this is also lots of fun. And they will lead you into downtown, the old part of town, and that's where you can have dinner. You can go around, poke into different bars, eat your pinchos. And at 11 p.m., you have fireworks. There is this huge park in the center of the city. It's the old citadel that was built in the 16th century to protect the city because Pamplona was an outpost and it was very important to defend Spain against France. So they built this citadel and now it's not used anymore, but it's a huge park and it's absolutely gorgeous. And if you go around that area at 11 p.m., you can see the fireworks from there. And also another thing you can do at 11 p.m. is a little known fact. You can actually go to the corrals where they keep the bulls that are going to participate in the running of the bulls the following day.
The corrals, okay.
Exactly, the corrals. And you can go there and you can actually see them take the bulls from the corrals to the place where they are going to stay through the night in order to be in the running of the bulls the following morning. And this is called the Little Bull Run.
Ah, okay.
So it's actually very interesting because this is actually the way it was originally supposed to be. So it's not as crazy as what you will have in the morning. And then after that, you can party until 5:30 a.m. because you have concerts.
And then it starts all over again. Okay.
Exactly, because the thing is you have concerts in every different square or park. They actually have stages, and in each stage they have different performers and bands, and all this goes until 5:30 a.m.
Now, I have to note that when Vicente said, I want to say Vincente, when Vicente said that he wanted to come on the show and talk about Pamplona, he said he really wanted to talk about things other than the festival because that's all the people know about. I see that the gravitational pull of the festival has pulled us in here. So, I still don't know if I go to Pamplona not at the festival time, I'm going to see the Citadel, for instance. What else am I going to see?
Well, definitely, if you go there during the rest of the year, you want to go and visit the old part of town. It's really, really beautiful. Pamplona was a walled city until the early 20th century. And so it has this unique personality. So you can walk around downtown. You want to see the city hall, which is where they throw the rocket to start the San Ferminis.
Right.
But you are going to, it's very hard to see it during the San Ferminis because there's just so much craziness and so many people. So you want to definitely check out that building. You want to definitely walk around the cathedral. The inside of the cathedral is beautiful. It's this Gothic cathedral. And now I say the inside of the cathedral is beautiful. The outside is not as beautiful because it was rebuilt in the 18th century. So it's this neoclassical facade. The outside is neoclassical. So it's this very imposing Greek style facade. but the inside is really, really beautiful. And you have many different little churches to visit, many different parks that you can wander around. There is this park in the center of the city, very close to the citadel, called the Taconera, and you actually have deer roaming around
Okay.
in the center of the city. You have like deer and ducks. It's absolutely gorgeous. And you can actually, if you go to the north of the city, you can see the remains of the original wall that surrounded the city.
Uh-huh.
So you can walk around that area and you have gorgeous views from there. Now, the bull ring, you can skip. It's the third largest bull ring in the world, second largest in Spain, but is not all that nice.
The largest is Sevilla?
If I'm not mistaken, the largest is Madrid.
Madrid.
It's
Okay.
Las Ventas.
Got it. Yeah, been there.
But the building itself is okay. It's large, but there's not much really to see.
Okay. Now, it sounds like if I go to the festival, there's going to be all sorts of surprises, at least for people who haven't heard this podcast. If I go there the rest of the year, is there anything else that's going to surprise me?
Definitely, if you go during the rest of the year, you have so many different things that you can do that you are going to be surprised by all the options that you have. Because the thing about Navarre, the region itself, is that its landscape is really, really diverse. So if you go to the south, for instance, you have a full-on desert, like
Okay.
Sahara Desert. I wouldn't even say Sahara, I would say more Death Valley. And it's really close to Pamplona. So you have these gorgeous landscapes there. If you go to the north, you have these valleys where these old towns where they still keep their traditions. So you can still see how they chop the trees, how they make the cheese, how they make the wine. If you go to San Sebastian, for instance, San Sebastian is really, really close to Pamplona. It's a gorgeous city. It's one of the most beautiful cities of Spain. And San Sebastian is not in the region of Navarra. San Sebastian is the Basque country.
Right.
But I will definitely recommend you visit San Sebastian. And I think something that is going to surprise you is the language.
Okay.
Because you get there and you speak your Spanish, but then all of a sudden people are going to start speaking to you and you're going to be like, what? Many people don't speak Spanish. Many people speak Basque, or as they call Euskera.
Okay.
And Euskera is a very different language. It has nothing to do with Spanish.
Right. Not at all the same roots. It's not a Romance
Nothing.
language at all. In fact, one of the
Yeah.
oldest languages in Europe.
Exactly. Nobody really knows the origin of this language. And as you said, they assume that it was the language that was spoken in the region before even the Romans arrived. So you get there, the norther up you go, the farther up north you go, the more you're getting into a region where people speak only Euskera or mainly Euskera. If you go to a small town, you may find people who only speak Euskera, but usually people who speak Euskera also speak Spanish, but be prepared. And Euskera is a very tricky language, like lots of K's, C's. It's very, very difficult to even guess what they mean.
Okay. 3 final questions. Before we get to those, anything else we should know before we go to Pamplona and to Navarre?
Well, one thing I failed to mention is Zugarramurdi. And this kind of like relates to the whole Euskera thing. Zugarramurdi is the name of a town.
And I'm going to have you repeat that a little slower.
Zugarramurdi.
Okay.
It's the name of a town north of Navarra, very close to the French border. And this town is very famous because it has a huge cave. It's called the Cathedral. And it literally looks like a cathedral. It's this huge dome. And back in the day, they used this cave for pagan celebrations. And in the 16th century, the Inquisition went there and took pretty much everybody in town, put them on trial for witchcraft. So it's a little bit like the story of Salem.
Uh-huh.
Lots of people were put on trial. Many people got killed. So it's a very interesting story. And if you go there, first, the cave itself is absolutely gorgeous. But second, you still have museums telling the story and little things, the little contraptions that the witches used to build. And it's really, really interesting. And it's not that far from Pamplona.
Okay. Final 3 questions. One thing in Pamplona that makes you laugh and just say only in Pamplona.
One thing that makes me laugh in Pamplona is rain coming from the bottom up.
Well, that would be unusual.
Yeah, the thing is, Pamplona is not a windy city by any means, but since it is right by the Pyrenees, you have all these winds, all these air currents that come through the Pyrenees. So the weather there change drastically and quickly. And these winds play with the mist in the air. And there is this very specific kind of rain that in Pamplona they call calabobos, which literally translates as rain that makes slow people wet, or rain that makes dumb people wet. And it's this very thin rain that blows with the wind, and you have your umbrella and there is no way you can stop it because it's just coming at you from everywhere. So when you are walking around, and the funny thing also about this rain is that it's so thin that you don't realize you're getting wet until you're wet. So that's another reason for that name. So you're walking around and all of a sudden you see all the people around you with umbrellas. Those will be the native people from Pamplona. And then you realize that it's actually raining and that you are wet. Yeah, people there have a talent. They have a skill. They can produce umbrellas out of thin air. I don't know how they do it.
And then you know this one's coming. You really know you're in Pamplona when what?
When you are hugging a total stranger while both of you are covered on eggs and flour and you don't think it's weird.
I can't quite picture not thinking it's weird. Okay. And then lastly, if you had to describe Pamplona and Navarre in 3 words, what 3 words would you use?
I would say food.
Okay.
Friends, because definitely you are going to make lots of friends when you go there. If you go off-season, people in Pamplona are so friendly. They are extremely, extremely friendly. They still have the mentality of a small town, so they are super, super friendly. And if you go during the San Fermines, you are going to make lots of friends. You have people from all over the world, from Australia, from the US, and everybody just wants to have a great time, and everybody has an amazingly nice attitude. So if you don't have any friends going there, don't worry, you will have friends coming back.
Okay.
And last, I would say fun, because no matter when you go, you are going to have fun. If you go off season, you have so many things you can do. You can go skiing, you can go hiking, rock climbing, and if you go during the festivals, of course, you're going to have a blast.
Excellent. Vicente, thank you so much for coming on The Amateur Traveler and telling us a little more about Pamplona.
Thank you for having me.
In news of the community, if you listen to these podcasts very promptly after they come out, I will actually be in New York City Sunday, the day after this show airs, Sunday, February 27th, 2011, at the New York Times Travel Show. If you're interested in meeting up, you might follow me on Twitter at Chris2X and find out where I'll be. I had an email from Carrie who said, I just wanted to say how much I enjoyed the episodes so far. I found you through iTunes and listened to a few podcasts about Transylvania and then Bosnia, as my wife and young children are set to go there for 6 weeks later this month. I was very impressed with the editing of the images as we listened to your guests and found the content really good. I'll certainly continue to listen whenever I make a road trip. Often for work, I'm on the road. Again, thanks for sharing these experiences with us, and I wish you continued success. Thanks so much, Carrie. And I should point out, since there were a number of new listeners this week, because iTunes was kind enough to feature the Amateur Traveler in the Society and Culture section, that there are pictures. There is an enhanced version of the show that plays in iTunes with pictures, or also plays on an iPhone or iPod. So just so you know. And with that, because I'm still not packed for a flight tomorrow, I think we'll bring this episode of The Amateur Traveler to a close. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment on the episode at amateurtraveler.com or drop me an email at host@amateurtraveler.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Chris2X. And as always, thanks so much for listening.